All of the sharing of chords that goes on between major keys has some really interesting musical implications. One of those implications is that every single major and minor triad can have several different musical identities depending on which key we find it in. Take, for example, a D minor triad. D, F, A. A D minor triad is the 2 chord in the key of C. And that's how we first learned its musical identity. But the D minor triad is also the 6 chord in the key of F. It's also the 3 chord in the key of B flat. So its musical identity is a little bit different depending on which key we find it in. Either it's the 2 chord, it's the 6 chord, or it's the 3 chord. Take a look at another chord. Let's look at an F major chord. F, A, C. We find the F major chord in the key of C, where it is the 4 chord. But we also find an F major chord in the key of F, where it's the 1 chord. And we also find it in the key of B flat, where it's the 5 chord. So the F major chord can be found as the 4 chord in the key of C, the 1 chord in the key of F, and the 5 chord in the key of B flat. And if you think about it for a moment, that actually makes sense. Every single major chord can be found in 3 different keys. Every different minor chord can be found in 3 different keys, because in every key there are 3 major chords, the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord. So every major chord can be found in one key as the 1, in another key as the 4, and in another key as the 5. Every single minor chord can also be found in 3 keys, because we know the minor chord is found in 3 places in every major scale. Every minor chord is the 2 chord in one key, the 3 chord in another key, and the 6 chord in yet another key. Interestingly, by the way, the diminished chord is unique. There's only one diminished chord in every single key. So that means that any given diminished chord that we can make only exists in one major key. So for that reason, the diminished chord is sort of a key-defining chord. If we know what the diminished chord is, we know what the key is. This also introduces a really interesting element of ambiguity for any triad. Because if we play a triad all by itself, suppose I just play an F major chord out of thin air. We hear the sound of the F major triad, but there's some ambiguity as to how that chord functions, or what chord that key is in. Because we know an F major chord could be in the key of C. An F major chord could be the 1 chord in the key of F. Or the F major chord could be the 5 chord in the key of B flat. So you hear, as stable and as clear as those 3 notes of the F major triad sound, they actually have this ambiguity when we start putting them with other chords, and that's a really interesting thing that we're going to keep track of.